Okay, I'm at the National Indoor Championships. It's been held across Australia on Saturday and Sunday at all different venues. I'm at Port Elliot, which is a rural country town an hour south of South Australia. In South Australia, it's been held in Ingle Farm, which is north of Adelaide. It's been held in Mount Gambier and also at Port Elliot. There's about 40 shooters this morning shooting. In the afternoon, there's about 30 shooting. So we got up at around 7 o'clock this morning and we got here at about 10 past 8 and we start shooting at 9 o'clock. So this is what all the practice is for. And yeah, we'll sort of see how it goes. So in the morning session, so there's 2 sessions, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. You're either shoot one or the other. I shoot both because I shoot compound and recurve. So for all the archer shooting, all the best of luck. Thank you. Okay, so I just want to wrap up the National Indoor Championships and how it went for me, and basically tell you a little bit about how it runs and show you some pictures inside a venue where I shot, to give you a bit of a feeling for how a competition at a national level runs. So I'll first off talk about the competition itself. So basically you're split into 2 groups, A, B and a C, D, as you'll see in the video. So if you're an A, there's a little timer down the bottom that comes up to say that you're ready to come up, and A and B walk up to the target together. You then have, I believe, and I'm sorry I forget the numbers, I think you have 1 minute, 180 seconds to shoot 3 arrows. Could be 120 seconds. But there's a little timer down there. So a little button, a little siren sounds. You have 10 seconds to get to the line and be ready to shoot. At 10 seconds, another siren beeps and it says you can now start shooting. If you shoot an arrow before the beep, you lose the highest score in the target. You must shoot all the arrows before the allotted time slot. Otherwise, if you shoot an extra arrow, it counts down. If you do not shoot all your arrows in the allotted time slot, it only counts the number of arrows you shoot. If you shoot after the time slot, you lose the highest score on the target. So basically, A and B walk up first, shoot their 3 arrows, then C and D walk up, shoot their 3 arrows, then you go and score. You then come back, and this time, instead of AB going up first, C and D go up first. They shoot their 3 arrows, then A and B come up. Now you'll see on the targets, A and B on the top, C and D down the bottom. That alternates for the Australian round, which is the National Field Archery Association round. So A and B will be at the top, and then C and D down the bottom, and they switch it around after 30 arrows. So that's basically how it works. There's sirens, which basically tell you when to start, when to finish, and there's that timer which basically puts extra pressure on you. And this is what's good about shooting in a tournament, because it's all very well to sit here and, you know, practice at home or practice at a club, but you're not under the same pressure. And I really felt the pressure. It's not like I ever ran out of time, because I didn't. I just feel the pressure of a timer going, and like, am I having trouble get that shot off? So I feel the extra pressure of the timer and the sirens sort of going on. So sometimes you shoot better because, you know, when I say it's quiet, you're more focused, and other times it actually puts more pressure on you. So I had a lot of trouble getting my back tension to go off. I felt like I was a lot shakier at the Nationals with the compound. So instead of my sight pin just sitting on the gold, it was just moving around. So, but before the Nationals, my sight pin would just sit on the middle of the 10 of the target, and I'd shoot the shot and go in the 10. But come the Nationals, I was like, whoa, shaking around. So some people will shoot better, some will shoot worse. Largely people will shoot worse at a competition. Now, how did I go at the competition? So I'll show you some targets. I'll start off with compound. This is my compound Vegas face. This target here was all 10s. I think that was a practice, but I had real problems on my 3rd target. You'll see the 9s, 9, 9, 9, 9. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4 9s there, 1 9 here. So I was about, you know, the majority, I think I had some double shots here. So most of my 9s came on this 3rd target. Now what's interesting to me is I don't practice on this target face. What I do is I cut these targets up and I just put them around the target randomly and I just shoot at them. So for me, this third target was a major issue for me. The top target was obviously great. So yeah, that's how that one went. And that was my second target. You can see a rough shot down here. So my scores at the end of the day were 2 out of 300 was 292, 293. I had been shooting high 290s, 289s, 299s prior to the Nationals, and I did shoot a 300 just before the Nationals, like 2 days before. So I was expecting to shoot really, really well. Now I did shoot 24Xs out of 30 just 2 days before the Nationals, and I thought, I've got this. Like, bow shooting fantastic, I've got this. I'm shooting really, really well. Then I get to the Nationals and this is what happened. So this target here, I'm going to zoom up, that's the 10. This is the world round, so that's the 10. So in practice I put 24 out of 30 in this hole. You can see here, basically I'm spraying my arrows. My sights are pretty good, it's just my arrows are all sprayed, yeah, and there's an 8 down the bottom. But second target, you can see I'm a bit scattered there. Now I finished, like if I get the numbers wrong, so don't kill me, but I think I finished with 14x and a 15x out of 30. So about half my shots were in the 10. I did have another target face, which got replaced, which was better than this one. And I got it in a zone in the middle where I was basically hitting all X's. And then they replaced my target face, and it became harder for me. Now just on that, I want to talk about the difference between shooting a 3-spot and a single spot target face. That's a single spot, and that's your 3-spot. Now, in my opinion, for whatever it's worth, and I'll probably do a little video on it, you're better to shoot a single spot target face if you shoot a score under 290, because it's easier to aim at a single spot. It's just, you don't have to think which target to aim at. You don't have to think, oh, I'm not doing so well on target 3, so when you come up on target 3, there's extra pressure. It's like just, you've got one target to aim at. The other thing that's good about shooting a single target spot is once you blow the 10 away, you've got a spot to aim at. So you tend to be more focused, where with this sort of scenario, there's only a few targets on each, so it's harder to kind of see. Now I was shooting with a girl shooting recurve, and she was shooting the 3-spot target face. And her score, like roughly, was about 250 out of 300. And I said to her, I said, why are you shooting 3-spot? And she said, oh, my coach, suggested it. Now she missed the target 4 times in the event. So, like if you're aiming at that target, she had a couple of arrows out here, which would have been, if it was a single spot, it would have been a scoring shot, right? They would have been 5s, and let's say she had 4 misses, which I think she had, so she would have had probably an extra 20 points. Now that 20 points is huge. Now the other thing I'm going to say about it, the single spot's easier to aim at, so I think you actually pick up extra points because it's single face versus 3-spot. So for me, based on the score she was shooting, I think it was a really bad choice, and the coach would hate me for saying that, and she'd probably hate me. Now the only reason I can think of, there are 2 reasons to shoot the 3-spot. One, if you're shooting so well that you're worried about hitting your arrows and you're going to shoot knocks off and get deviations. Now if you're shooting fats, you probably need to shoot a 3-spot face, but if you're shooting skinny arrows, you'll get away with the single spot. Now my partner in the event shot 299 out of 300 shooting single spot, single face, so she only missed the 10 once, and on the second day she had amazing groups. They were like that big, and they were all basically, she was still shooting a single spot, so she was shooting just a single spot, but they were all just there. So she had basically no stray arrows, much better than my groups, but they were all grouped there, and she just basically couldn't change her sight. So, and when I say she couldn't change her sight, she did, but she didn't do enough. So where me, I've sort of got a scatter pattern on the target, which is what you want. I always draw my target into axis, and I want even number of arrows on each spot. So my compound score, I was really, really disappointed with. I felt like I should do better, but my number of X counts, like 14, 15, is kind of what I averaged. Like a good X count for me is 20. and I shoot way down to, you know, the 10s. So I was pretty happy with the X counts. I clearly wasn't shooting as well as I should, but overall I was just really disappointed with my Vegas style score of 292, 293 out of 300. And yeah, I felt like I should have done better, but it's just nerves and getting that off. So now, 2 days before my going to the Nationals, my recurve was horrible, and I did a video on how bad my recurve was. But I turned up on the day with my recurve and I was worried. I was like, I'm gonna lose this. I'm not even gonna lose, I'm gonna get my ass handed to me. And I rocked up on the first shoot, shot my first 4 arrows, and I went in the X with the recurve. I went, oh my God, look at this, what's happened? Now I shoot another 4 arrows in practice, and they're like 10s. I'm like, I've got this, right? I've got this. And and I didn't, my brain wasn't triggering. I thought I've still got another practice. I just wasn't counting things correctly. I didn't hear whether it was scoring, and I shot low. I shot 3 arrows down in this kind of region down here. They were grouped, but they were low left. Now, my score with my recurve was down on last year. So I shot a 265 out of 300, a 271, a 269, something like that. But at the halfway point of one of the rounds, so that's my target face for recurve, which I'm pretty happy with. And that's my other target face there. Like, I'm pretty happy with that. But at my halfway point where I shot 15 arrows, I was at a score which would have been probably top 6 in Australia. Like, I was shooting 29s, 30s, 28s, lots of 29s. And then what happened, the sun hits me in my face. And I sound like I'm making excuses, but this is the difference between having different venues. There's big skylights up at the venue and the sun comes through, it just blinds me. And happened last year to a person I was shooting with. So it depends which target you're on. Only target 3, target 4 are affected by the skylights, and the sun comes over and just blinds you in your face and you can't actually see your pin. So then I shot 24s and 25s out of 30, and that just pulled my score down. Once the sun passed over, I was back in and I was shooting pretty well. So overall with my recurve, I was pretty happy. I finished 2nd in the state with recurve, and I was only behind the leader by, I'm going to get this number wrong, 5. So there's only 5 points out of 1200 where you've got a difference, which is not much. Compound, I finished 5th in the state, and I was, if I get the numbers wrong, forgive me, I think I was 5 points off 3rd. 1st and 2nd were probably 10, 12 points ahead. So it's still quite close because it's indoor. But I was still disappointed with that. Now, after the event, I was exhausted. So I came home and I literally passed out. In fact, I was so exhausted, it was the most exhaustion I have almost felt, as opposed to last night where I was completely exhausted. But it was like the best way I can describe it is like being out in the sun all day, having no water, and you're just exhausted, like it feels like heat stroke. Now, I was drinking continuously when I was at the event, and I was eating like little muesli bars to keep my sugar levels, trying to keep them intact. But my mouth was just continually dry. I don't know if that's adrenaline, stress, or what. But I was like sipping water all the time, where when I shoot at home or at the shop, I can sit there and shoot 200 arrows without having any water, without having any food. So for me, that's kind of interesting why, especially with compound, not so much with the recurve. Recurve, I didn't feel any pressure at all. But I felt pressure with the compound because I had an expectation on myself. With the recurve, I kind of had no expectation until I started shooting all these 10s. And I was like, oh wow, look at this. You know, here comes, you know, a big win, which didn't happen. But so what I'm going to take out of this, as far as when you think about shooting a tournament, you know, put the practice in before the tournament, and when you go to the tournament, bring water, bring some nibblies from food, and you shoot the tournament because it's extra pressure. And when I say extra pressure, it's not the same as shooting a score. When I say by yourself, like at a club, like there was a guy who shot a score at a club, 299. And I was like, that's an awesome score. And it is, great score. At the event, I think he shot 285. And I said, oh, you must be really disappointed. He said, no, I'm happy with that. Okay. So that's the difference between a tournament situation. Know what your range is. This is where I score in between, and go, okay, I'm going to go in there and see how I feel afterwards, how I feel about the tournament, and then work on what you're going to do next time when you're at a tournament. So for me, my points about what I would take from that is I really need to set up a timer. So a timing system at my shop or at home. So I'm shooting under a timer the whole time, and I've got that pressure. I think I also need to have a timer set up where I've got 1 hour to shoot and I've got like 15 seconds to shoot it, to put extra pressure on myself for practice. I definitely need, with compound, to work on a thumb release aid as well as back tension, which I'm going to work on. And I'm going to do more work between skinny arrows and fat arrows, because I felt like my bad shots with fat arrows are increased. I feel like the skinny arrows are much more forgiving, and my theory on that is that the skinny arrows come out of the bow so much quicker and the arrow has left the bow by the time I make a mistake. That's my theory. And my theory that I'm also going to test is I shoot higher scores with skinny arrows than fat arrows for indoor. And I'm going to honestly run heaps and heaps of scores and keep a table of what my scores are between the fats and the skinnies. I mean, in the ideal world, your fats would score much better, and obviously a fat arrow shot correctly goes in the center. There's no question about that. I shot my best score with fat arrow, 24Xs, 300, but I shoot so many 299s with skinny arrows when I'm not shooting particularly well, where with my fat arrows, I feel like if I'm not shooting that well, I'm under more pressure, my scores really drop off. So that's the other thing I'm going to really test. So I'm going to just, if I'm feeling fatigued, I'm just going to grab the bow, grab some skinny arrows, grab some fat arrows, and just shoot some scores and see how it goes. So that's overall my synopsis of the National Indoors. And bear in mind, when you're shooting National Indoors, there's a whole bunch of venues right across Australia. So you may be in Tasmania, it may be really cold. You may be in Gold Coast where it's really nice weather. You're shooting a t-shirt. It's not the same venue. So even though it is the same score and you're competing against that person, they don't have your environment. They don't have your lighting. But to me, what's great, there was over 1,000 archers competing in the National Indoor event, which to me is the big winner. There was over 100 archers in my state competing in the event. And you can compete for a pretty low cost because you don't have to travel to a national event. So like the Nationals are in Perth. For me to travel to Perth, it might be $600 at plane fare, plus accommodation, plus car hire, plus a week off work. So my cost to shoot a Nationals in Perth this year, if I was to do it, would be, let's say, $3,000. Which I'm more than happy to do, but there's other factors in my life at the moment that I've got to take into consideration, and I would like to do the Nationals. But like I said, there's other things going on right now. So I hope that's helped you, and by all means, try out a national event. I had a guy shooting in my shop. So he's been shooting 2 months. He was shooting 285s at my indoor range. And he went to the event, he shot 265, so he's down 20 points. He goes, oh, I felt the pressure and I felt this. And anyway, the next day, he was exhausted at the end of the day. He was gutted. And his son, only shooting 60 arrows for the day, his son was like wiped. His son was 9, it was like really cute. The next day he came back with a different approach and he was really happy with his score. So for me, part of this shooting at Nationals is like, well, there's the score. Next year I'm going to come back, I'm going to do it again, and so see how I go. So summary, my recurve scores were down on last year by probably 10 to 15 points. So nationally, I think I went from 14th to 20th or 22nd. with recurve. But I did go up in poundage and I wasn't shooting that well. But now since I've come back from the nationals, my recurve at home is really good. Like it's shooting really, really well. My compound scores improved on last year by quite a margin. So if I was to guess where I came this year in the nationals, I would say with compound somewhere in the 20s. The year before, probably in the 50s. I had a pretty rough year the year before. I had lots of, stuff going on. I changed my bow around, fitted a peep, fat arrows, which just didn't work for me. So that's where I'm up. But by all means, give a national event a go and be aware of the extra stress it puts on your body, the extra adrenaline or stress, whatever it is, I don't know, and give it a go. And I don't say shoot every tournament, and I don't shoot every tournament, but give it a go once in a while, because that work you put in at home or at the club, it's worth going there and seeing sort of how it goes. So I hope that's given you a good overview of the national event, and give it a go. Even if you're a hunter or whatever you do, these events, they're pretty cheap to enter. Like my state events are $15 to shoot in a state competition, which I think is great. Other states are more expensive because they want to make more money, but my state I'm in now is $15. So I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies. I hope that's given you a good overview of the event. Thank you. Bye.